I'm Danica Hubbard, and welcome to my vlog or video log archiving my international experience as a US Fulbright Scholar. This is my first time vlogging or having a digital diary of my experiences, and just as a disclaimer, my personal experiences, opinions, and ideas are not representative of the US government. This is just a vlog to help out future scholars or students who are interested in the Fulbright program. So I am sitting here in my apartment in Zadar, Croatia, and I've been here for about 2 weeks now. And before I got here, there was a very rigorous amount of preparation and application cycles to go through. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with you in installments. So it'll be a before, during, and after Fulbright program experience. I have been teaching at College of DuPage, a community college located outside of the western suburbs, outside of Chicago in the western suburbs for over 25 years. And I teach a split of courses in a face-to-face traditional venue and a virtual online environment. I teach developmental reading and English composition, and my students are fabulous. I also developed a recent course in service learning, and it's called Students, Sustainability, and Service, and that was really the launching pad for this Fulbright experience, and I'll get into that a little bit later. The Fulbright program started in 1946 by Senator William Fulbright, who was the longest running chairman of the, I'm going to look at my notes here, of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And he really was passionate about contributions and making contributions for mutual understanding internationally. And it was his vision to start this extraordinary education program and exchange program for scholars and students. And since that time, about 400,000 Fulbrighters have been placed all over the world, and it's a very enlightening and intellectual experience. So there are several opportunities to become a Fulbright student or a Fulbright scholar. You can go on the U.S. Department of State's website, and it will have a complete list of those opportunities. But ones that I know of are a group project venue, which is through the Fulbright Hays program. There is a student venue, which is the ETA, or English Teaching Assistant. And of course, my category is the US Fulbright Scholar. And these scholars are required to have a PhD, and they can either elect to become teachers in their host institution or researchers within that host country. So again, there are many opportunities, and the website is very robust, and I encourage you to check it out and look at all the different opportunities that are available. So the State Department funds this program, and it is with the support of some of the host institutions as well, financial support. And like I said before, I am in the Fulbright Scholar category, and I was awarded a Fulbright that's administered through the organization called CIS, which stands for Council for International Exchange Scholars, and they provide peer tutors, usually academics, peer reviewers, who are usually academics who read through all the applications and make those initial decisions. It is a very, again, rigorous application process, which I'll get into, but CIS is the organization that does that. And then, of course, IIE, an acronym that you also might find in the website, stands for Institute of International Education, and IIE is a division of CIS. and it sounds like alphabet soup. But those are some of the acronyms that you might see on the website, and I just wanted to familiarize those with you. So probably, as you know, and watching this is one of the most prestigious awards to study and teach abroad. It's very competitive, but it is well worth the effort. And I will again walk you through my own personal experience of the application process and what those efforts look like. So annually, about 2,000 students from colleges and universities across America are awarded a Fulbright scholarship. And in addition to that, about 1,200 faculty are awarded a US Fulbright Scholar. And again, that award will cover your living expenses and some of the materials that you'll bring to your host institution. And the Fulbright community is really a significant contributor to a collective effort for best practices and enhancing that international diplomacy, and again, that mutual understanding that William Fulbright really promoted. So this is called Finding Your Fulbright. So step one is to think about applying for a Fulbright. And really, I think you have to be self-reflective in order to do that. Do I want to teach or study abroad, and what do I need to do to get there? And so a little bit about my background. I was born in the city of Chicago, and I am an only child. My two parents, my father was a corporate executive and my mother was a teacher. And those two parents, my support system, really fueled my passion to teach and study abroad. My father in the 1970s and 1980s, when I was growing up, used to travel extensively with his companies that he worked for, and he traveled to China, Sweden, Italy, Switzerland, and he would come back and tell me all sorts of stories about his cultural experiences, people who he met, food that he ate, just all those sensory images that would fill up my days with his oral history of his experiences. And really that was the fabric that started my thinking about going abroad. And then combined with my mother's experience as a Chicago public school teacher, and later in her life a teacher at the youth center in Aurora, her teacher experience also really was a role model for me to pursue not only teaching, but that teaching abroad aspect. So I started at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and earned a bachelor's degree in communication. And as part of that experience, I studied abroad in Heidelberg, Germany, and I lived with a family for a semester, and it was a phenomenal experience. And then after that, I pursued a master's degree in creative writing at DePaul University, and finally earned a doctoral degree in reading, writing, and literacy from University of Illinois at Chicago. After I got married to my wonderful and supportive husband, Brian, we welcomed a couple of exchange students, international exchange students, into our home when our daughters, Morgan and Madison, were very young, and it made a lasting impression on our whole family. The first exchange student we had was from France, near Lyon, France, and she stayed with us for about a month. And the second exchange student we had was from Riesa, Germany, and her name is Clara, and she's our international daughter. She stayed with us for about a year, an academic year, and then came back for a summer, And then we went to visit her and her family, and we've been back and forth Skyping and visiting in person. In fact, this past summer, we just went to Scotland and met up with her there at St. Andrews. And it's just been a phenomenal relationship that we've had all of these years. So I think previous international experience, either studying or traveling abroad, certainly helps your application. I also talked to a lot of my colleagues that were former Fulbrighters. I'm at a community college, and there are only a handful of Fulbrighters at my community college, and I spoke with them, I emailed them, I took them out for coffee, I asked a myriad of questions regarding the Fulbright application process and drafting a personal statement. And that was very valuable in the process as well. So I think, again, that self-reflection and looking at the type of person that you are, that you will contribute to the Fulbright experience and bring that experience back to your home institution, to your community and beyond, is really important in the Fulbright process. So the application, prior to the application, do a little bit of that self-reflection, and then I really want to impress upon you to start early. It takes a while to formulate thoughts and organize ideas and to get your personal statement to where you want it to be. Of course, I'm saying this as an English teacher, so pre-writing, drafting, using those components of really spending time marinating in your thoughts is important, an important part of the process. And to be honest, that took me quite a few months. So you'll see on the website that the application process starts, it's open in August, and then it runs all the way through January. So it's a good solid 8 months of review, peer review, international host review, final selection. There's a lot of moving parts within those 8 months. But prior to that application cycle, obviously you need to get all of your ducks in a row in terms of launching your application. It's all electronic, it's all online. They will ask you for such items like curriculum vitae or CV, which is a resume, your letters of recommendation, your personal statement, and then of course filling in the standardized forms that go along with that. So it does take quite some time. And my personal statement took on several drafts until I got to the final. I would send them to my colleagues who were former Fulbrighters. I would send them to my colleagues within my department, the liberal arts department, to read. I would send them to my family and friends, just different drafts to see what their perspectives were and if they could edit and offer any type of criticism, constructively, of course, that would really help to strengthen your personal statement. So I would say that your personal statement will take the most amount of time, and to spend your time wisely and carefully on that personal statement. Really describe who you are and why you want to go, why you want to be part of the Fulbright program. You are required to turn in a couple of, these are paper copies of course, a couple of syllabi. So I turned in my service learning syllabi. I work in the what we call a Prairie project with our Prairie manager at College of DuPage. So I turned that in terms of looking at course materials and expectations and course objectives. And then I turned in a separate computers and composition online style of syllabus, so they can see kind of multiple sides of my teaching experience. Finally, that CV will really come in handy to, again, list all of your awards and accolades and publications and work experience, where you went to school, etc., etc. And then finally, your recommendation letters. I turned in 3 recommendation letters. Fulbright has, or IIE, I should say, that I mentioned earlier, has a whole set of guidelines and requirements to follow. So your recommenders will be submitting their recommendation letter electronically, and unless you ask for it, you probably won't see it. I asked 3 people who were very important to the process. One was my academic dean at College of DuPage. Another was a former Fulbrighter at College of DuPage who went to Siberia. His name was John Stasnopoulos. Thank you. Sandra Martins was my academic dean. Thank you so much, Sandra. And then finally, I asked a person that was close to me outside of the institution who worked with English language learners, which again is part of my field. And her name was is Laura Ortiz. And she works at another community college, but prior to her leaving College of DuPage, we served on several academic and cross-disciplinary committees together. So she really knew who I was in terms of my contributions to the college. So those are just some examples of recommendation letters for your application process. After you click the submit button and you get all of your application materials in, it's really time for patience, and waiting is very, very difficult. Throughout the process, though, I did write to the outreach coordinator at IIE. I would phone staff members of IIE and say, how's it going? Is my application still there? Is it out there? Because again, it did take a very, very long time. So I submitted as early as possible in August due to my rigorous teaching schedule. I wanted to make sure my application was in, and I did not find out until April. So it was a very long time, and I found out via email. It was an acceptance letter via email, but again, many months of waiting, and sometimes months of just not hearing anything from Fulbright, and that's completely okay. They are working on it. There's so many applications and so many reviews to go through. It just takes a very long time. So you're applying the year before you go. I applied in August of 2018. I came to my Fulbright post in September of 2019. So again, if you have work obligations, school obligations, family obligations, you would have to prepare all of those types of things a year in advance with a leap of faith. Will I be awarded the Fulbright? Will I not? What's my plan B? And certainly if you are not awarded the Fulbright for some reason, then you can reapply. And that's highly encouraged for you to submit a different application for a different country. You wouldn't be applying necessarily for the same country. We're talking about countries, you do have to pick one. I picked Croatia based on my love of this country. I'd never been here before, but my name is Danica, and it is Slavic, and the Croatian pronunciation is Danica, and that's been a topic of conversation ever since I arrived. I am by genealogy English, Polish, German, but as far as I know, in terms of a lineage, I do not have Croatian ancestors, but it's been fascinating to try to learn some of the language and also to communicate. I must need a letter of invitation. And a letter of invitation is from the host institution where you think you might be going. That is a little difficult. Prior to my academic career, I did work at IBM Corporation, and I would call this letter of invitation sort of like a cold call in sales. So I did not know anyone in Croatia. I did not have any type of contact information, so I did a lot of research. And again, sent a lot of emails, and I sent probably emails to 5 host institutions, 2 of whom accepted me to come for the semester as a Fulbrighter if I was awarded the scholarship. And I ended up going, I should say I didn't end up going, the Fulbright organization ended up placing me at University of Zadar. So again, use that web source. The internet is abundant, and you just have to mine down and spend some time researching. And that's all, because I can't talk anymore. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.